the only people who now get married are people who are relatively wealthy. You know, the fact that we've disrupted the structure of marriage as an institution since about 1965, say, what that has meant is that its benefits are now only available to people who are privileged. So you can look up the stats yourself, but if you're middle class and above, the divorce rates haven't moved much since the early 70s. If you're working class and below, it's a complete catastrophe. And what that's meant is that many children who are in rougher socioeconomic straits are being raised by a single person who is absolutely and 100% overwhelmed by their multiple commitments, right? Full-time responsibility for children, and generally in employment in an extraordinarily dismal, low-paying, unstable, and exploitative job. So to me, if you're like you guys are, you're all going to be middle class or above in all likelihood. It's like, it's fine for you. It's not going to make a bloody bit of difference, all things considered. But for people who are poor, it's just been a catastrophe. So, okay. So, yes? Well, there's all sorts of reasons. I mean, first of all, it's become socially acceptable. Right, divorce wasn't socially acceptable, and you can say, well, that was pretty hard on people who wanted to get divorced. It's like, yeah, obviously. Any rule is hard on people that break it, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be rules. You know, now what rules there should be, that's a whole different issue. Out of wedlock childbirth has become a norm. It was absolutely rare in the early 1960s, vanishingly rare, and that's become, it's acceptable. Even though all the evidence suggests, like if you actually look at the evidence, it's absolutely clear that kids who have two parents do better than kids who have one. Now, you know, people, when you tell people that, they'll tell you an anecdote about someone they knew, maybe their own parent, who did a wonderful job of raising them as a single person. It's like, the anecdotes are irrelevant. What's relevant is the bulk of the evidence. Of course there are situations where people are better apart than together. And of course there are situations where one person can do a better job than two people who are at each other's throats. But it's aggregate examples that you use when you're doing a scientific survey, and the results of those surveys are crystal clear. You know, the other thing that's going to happen, it's going to happen very soon, is that there's going to be a very, 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 very large number of elderly people who are alone. And being elderly and alone, like no family, that is not something you want to look forward to, especially when you start thinking that you're going to be elderly for like 40 years. So, you know, because say it starts around 65, I don't know how long you guys are going to live, but it's probably 95 is not an unreasonable estimate, and it might be longer than that. So, because, you know, we're adding about 3 months to the total lifespan every year. Right. That's the rate of technological improvement in relationship to overall mortality. So, you know, and that, the degree to which we're adding that extra lifespan is increasing each year. You know, and it may get to the point where we're increasing lifespan a year every year. Now, I doubt it, because it'll probably be an asymptote. But it has been increasing for a very long period of time. So, you know, it's one thing to think about the maximization of day-to-day freedom when you're between, say, 15 and 40, 45. After that, that's a whole different story. But modern people never think about the last half of their life. You know, so why, I don't know, but maybe they're afraid to or something.